think, first of all, there was fundamentally 100,000 people in IRS, and I've yet to find one piece of paper that explained why that was the right number.
What happened during this recent hearing of the House Ways and Means Committee highlights a growing tension in American tax policy. Congressman Don Beyer directly challenged Frank Bisignano over the decision to end the IRS Direct File program, and the exchange raises bigger questions than it might seem at first. At its core, the issue is simple: should filing your taxes be free and easy, or should taxpayers rely on private companies to get it done? The Direct File program, introduced by the Internal Revenue Service, was designed to give Americans a straightforward, no-cost way to file their taxes directly with the government. For many people, especially low- and middle-income earners, this wasn't just convenient, it was necessary. It removed fees, reduced confusion, and cut out middlemen. So when the program was scaled back or ended, it immediately raised concerns. And that's where Beyer's questioning becomes important. His line of argument reflects a broader worry: if the government steps away from providing a free service, who benefits? Make sure you listen till the end, otherwise, you might miss it when it cuts off.
Gentleman yields. I recognize the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Beyer.
Madam Chairman, thank you very much. And Mr. Bisignano, CEO, thank you for being with us. Congresswoman Chu was trying to get a yes or no question out of you on Direct File. I'd like to go a little deeper, just because it was overwhelmingly popular. In fact, 94% of users described their experience as excellent or above average. More than 70% said they'd use Direct File if it were eligible. If the program were fully implemented, it was projected to save families up to $23 billion every year in fees, time, and tax credits. And there were recommendations to both the independent government, the GAO, and the Treasury's Inspector General that the administration, despite those recommendations, the administration chose to end Direct File. And basically, as Ms. Chu pointed, directly into the arms of the for-profit tax preparers. So, Mr. Bisignano, other than making life more difficult, what did that accomplish? And if your goal is to provide world-class service to the American people when they file their taxes, why not support a program that was free, overwhelmingly popular, and easy to use? So why the opposition, and why end it?
Well, as I was trying to say before, I've read this report inside and out that was handed to Congress before I was in the job. And I think the most stark, important details can be easily summarized, right? Less than half of 1% of the filers used it. Its cost was far above anything we see anywhere else. And there was 41 million extended to this without all the overhead that went around the organization itself. So that's why the Treasury Department suspended it. Well, and I've heard more than once about the overwhelming percentage of successful filers or complementary. What we haven't actually articulated is how small that absolute number actually is, sir.
So you're a businessman, I am too. And one of the things we know is when a program just begins, you get relatively small things. For example, in Virginia, our governor would not let us use it. There would have been many people in Virginia would have picked it up. If that 0.5% would have certainly grown to 2%, to 10%, to 20% if we're allowed to go. And by the way, the cost per person would have fallen dramatically as it expanded. Let me move on, though, because the tax cut, there's a group of us, Democrats and Republicans, who are very worried about the budget gap. We're, 101% right now, $2 trillion more this year, spending to grow to $3 trillion per year by 2036, the long-term risk to the stability of this nation. And we have a massive tax gap, $650 billion, $750, $500, depending on who you listen to. And we know that almost all that is from wealthy taxpayers underreporting. If you get a 1099 or W-2, 99% of the people are paying their appropriate taxes. But what's greatly concerning to me is how much we are dialing back on that. We just had the $11 billion tax cut, or $11 billion cut to the IRS, And the CBO estimated that's going to cost $40 billion in government revenue. The IRS's own tax data shows that investigations into abusive tax schemes dropped by a staggering 63% in the last year. So how can we justify constant cuts to the agency's own budget when we know that cutting the IRS will cost 3 times that in lost revenue? And I know you want to use AI to do that, and we're very much supportive of that. But AI alone, without the resources, without the sophisticated auditors, without the attention to that huge tax gap.
Yeah, I think, first of all, there was fundamentally 100,000 people in IRS. And I've yet to find one piece of paper that explained why that was the right number. So I understand that we have less people, but I'm not sure that there's anything that ever said what the right staffing level was, ever. The fact of the matter is we are measuring more than we ever had, we're delivering more than we ever had, and in fact, we have a talented workforce that's highly motivated, right? The tax gap, the last document produced was on 22, and 2022, and it talks about $650 billion. I am deep with the team in research of understanding every element of that, right? And in fact, I'm not sure we're ever going to find out that more research is going to go on, and I'm happy to come in front of you when I'm done with that, or come visit you and talk to you about it. I want to understand what the direct addressable market is, how much of that is actually, and how much of that is in our non-compliance rate.
The gentleman's time.
And part of streamlining the organization is having a better way for simplicity and higher compliance. And I'm happy to come see you, sir.
Gentleman's time
Thank
has
you very
expired.
much.
Gentleman yields back.
Critics argue that ending direct file effectively pushes millions of taxpayers back toward private tax preparation companies, many of which charge fees for services that could otherwise be free. That creates a system where people are paying to comply with a requirement imposed by the government itself. On the other hand, supporters of ending the program might argue that the IRS should focus on enforcement and administration, not competing with private industry. They may also raise concerns about cost, complexity, or the government's role in expanding digital services. But the underlying tension remains: this is not just about tax software. It's about access, fairness, and trust in public institutions. Beyer's questioning signals a deeper political divide. One side sees direct file as a logical, taxpayer-friendly innovation, something that simplifies life and reduces unnecessary costs. The other side views it as government overreach into a space traditionally handled by the private sector. In the end, this debate reflects a fundamental question in governance: when a service is essential and universal, like paying taxes, should the government make it as easy and free as possible, or leave room for the market to operate? That's the real issue behind the exchange, and it's one that's far from settled. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.